Hi, I'm Whack.
Hey, and I'm Pat. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Weekly Orbit, the week ending Friday, May 31st. We're going to try to put together our news this week in 30 minutes or less. It's been kind of a slow week, Whack, but we'll touch on markets, some tokenomics talk, and we got the IMC candidates who are up for vote. So how's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good, thank you. Like you said, it's been a bit slow. Things in Rocket Pool Land are like just crawling along. We're in that period now, before Houston comes along, and then we start getting information about node set, new tokenomics, all that stuff is going to happen really quickly. So it's just the calm before the storm, I think. So yeah, it's going to be a fun few weeks ahead, I think.
I hope so. Let's hope for lots of good storm. Let's look at the markets this last week. I feel like we're back in like a little bit of crab. Here's our 7-day chart of Ethereum, and we got we're currently at U.S. dollar terms 3,791. Last week at this time we were at 3,785. We're right around the same amount as last week. We had that big run up, from about 3,000 to 3,800 after the news of the ETF broke. But since then, we've kind of plateaued and we're stable. Any thoughts on ETH price?
Yeah, I think it's just people are now just waiting for the S1 forms to get done for the ETF. That looks like it's going to be around 5 or 6 weeks potentially before it's all done, like end of June, maybe beginning of July. So it's just that point now where we're just kind of waiting to have that done. I'm honestly surprised that we didn't move up a little bit more. Like when we went up to 39.50, I thought it was going to keep moving into like the low 4,000s and like kind of moving into that area, but I think the whole market kind of moved down a little bit and then ETH moved down with it, but that's okay.
Yeah. So I've heard different things about the S1s. Some people say, on the low end it'll be, just a couple of weeks. And then I've heard on the other end it could be 3 months. What have you been, what's the right answer there?
Well, no one knows, but the fact that BlackRock got their S1s in yesterday, the updated S1s, I think it's going to be really easy because they're going to do, most of the content's going to be the same as the Bitcoin one with like some Ethereum specific content. I think it's a copy and paste job mostly, so it won't be too much novel work that needs to be done. One of the problems is that, a lot of the issuers were not expecting the ETF to be approved, so they're a bit behind. I think they didn't take it as seriously as well, like internally. So that might slow things down a little bit. The best case scenario is 2 weeks. The worst case scenario is like 3 to 5 months. I think it's going to be around 1 month, maybe 6 weeks. That's what a couple of the analysts are saying as well, but we don't know. Like the reality is it could be any time between that. It depends as well, how much the SEC wants to drag their feet about it. There is a possibility that you could apply and everything could be in, and then the SEC takes the maximum amount of time that they can just to be dicks about it, basically, because they're unhappy about being overruled by, the White House / other politicians who told them, like, you have to approve this now, because that's what it looks like what happened. But I think
they
that
will
will
slow drag it if they want
exactly
to, right?
Exactly.
Reminds me of a story. I remember when I first started at my job a long time ago. There was this guy. His name was Wally, and he I think everyone was intimidated. He came across as one of those guys who he just might show up to work one day with like an AK-47, and everyone was afraid of him. But I initially shared a desk with him, and he was told, you got to move your desk to this other desk, this other cubicle. And he literally took like 8 hours to move his stuff from his desk to the new one. He would literally come by, pick up a pen like this, and like walk down the aisle, and then come back, take the next pen. He would just do that. So imagine someone at the SEC who's in charge of these S1s, like, just gonna page through this one at a time.
Exactly.
This is a 200-page S1? Okay, here's the table of contents. Let's read over that and just,
Exactly. So I think it
that.
depends. It depends on how bitter the SEC is about like having this approved. I don't know like what the machinations are right now, but I think there's a possibility of that. But the reality is like, all these issuers just want everything to get started, and there's enough pressure on the SEC now, to get them to move
Yeah.
on with it. So hopefully it'll take like the lower end of that estimate, which is why I'm saying like about a month maybe. So
Yeah.
let's see what
That
happens
sounds
next
reasonable.
month.
Another thing is, I'm sure as you said, the applicants were probably caught off guard a little bit with getting it approved, and imagine their marketing efforts are a little behind as well, where their marketing teams are going to, putting together, pamphlets and videos to clients about, the attributes of an Ethereum ETF and all that stuff. So this little bit of a delay may give them some time to get their marketing ramped up and get some inflows, once it goes live.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think they're all working around the clock right now to get everything done, because it's done, right? It's approved. So it's not a matter of like if, but it's a matter of when. And they are working nonstop to get all this done. I'm sure they've got like focus groups where they're like, bouncing ideas off them about like how they should present ETH. They probably have, their management sessions, like training sessions for their salespeople about how to do it. Like all of that is happening right now. And they're going to come up with some really good ideas. These are like, $1 trillion, multi-billion dollar industries. They don't take this shit lightly. Like they are going to work on it really well, and they're going to tweak it and tweak it and tweak it until they get like the perfect messaging for their audience, and I think it's going to work.
Yeah, like I think Eric, Anthony Sano's buddy, I think
Eric
was
Connor.
tweeting. Eric Connor. What is, in the marketing? The easy thing, the common theme for Bitcoin is digital gold. How do you describe ETH or Ethereum in like a little bite-sized sentence like that? And people have got all kinds of ideas. It's internet money, or it's ultrasound money, or it's programmable money, or it's the world computer. And it's all kinds of ways. And
Digital oil.
Digital oil, or it's like it's the Ethereum is the app store, of the internet, right?
Yeah,
that type of
money,
stuff.
app store of money. Yeah,
App store money.
yeah,
And so I don't know what the right answer is, but as you said, there's really smart people who work for these big traditional firms who are in marketing, and I think they'll come up with something that's catchy and and they'll figure it out. And I hope they do, because I think a lot of us don't. When someone says, "What is Ethereum?" and you always have to think, well, it's the.
But it's all of those things.
It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see what they come up with, and I think it'll help the whole industry. Okay, moving on to Rocket Pool price. Right now we're at $22.15 on the week. Against ETH, we're up just a touch, I think. Last week the ETH ratio was 0.0057, and right now we're at 0.0058, so up just a touch. We touched over 0.006 earlier in the week.
Yeah,
right?
6-1. Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
But I think it's just responding to, the prices kind of going down again, which is what's happened. So when ETH went up, we went up with ETH, the ratio recovered a little bit. And then as ETH went down, we kind of went down with ETH as well. So a bit more than ETH. And that's where we are right now. So ETH went down, is up, I think, 0.5% today, but RPL is down 3.8% today. So it's not been a good end to the, week of us recording. But if we were recording yesterday, it was looking a lot healthier than it is right now. But that's just the way things go sometimes.
Yeah, it would be nice to see some sustain above 0.06 or 0.06 for a little bit, get us up. We will see. One thing that we'll turn our focus to now is AAVE, our friend Mark Zeller. They're talking about converting some of their DAO treasury, so in this case, our ETH holdings, into Rocket Pool Minipools. And they would convert 100% of their holdings. And then that would mean that they would have to get some RPL to do that. and they could either buy it on the market or they could borrow it. RPL, they have their borrowing. You can borrow it through AAVE.
Yep.
And so, that could be an indirect way to boost RPL price, because as they borrow RPL on AAVE, people may deposit more RPL. No. Hey, come on, man. I'm trying here.
Yeah, you're trying. I don't think so. I think if you scroll down a little bit, they talk about like where the RPL is coming from. So it says disclosure that ACI directly acquires or is given access to RPL and SD tokens required to run validators on behalf of the DAO. So this is like one of the key sentences here. Like Mark already personally runs Minipools, which is really cool. The SD tokens, the Stader tokens that they're going to be using. So they have rETH and they have Lido's STETH. And what they're going to do is with the rETH, they're going to put it all into Rocket Pool as validators instead of, LST. And then with the Stader, the token, that's actually coming from the STETH holdings. So they're going to swap their STETH holdings into ETH and put it into validators with Stader. Stader already has a borrowing facility built into the protocol for their Stader token, so you don't need to buy, you just pay a commission basically for borrowing the Stader from the protocol. With RPL, like that doesn't exist right now, but Raman is actually working on something that we might cover next week. But and there's node set potentially coming up that'll let you like not run the validator yourself, but like a separate thing. But if they want to run the validator themselves, they've either got to get the RPL from somewhere and like enter a marriage, which might be possibility. And the second thing is that they'll deposit some of their ETH into AAVE itself and borrow RPL against that, and then use that as their collateral. So
Right.
I don't think they're going to buy it. Like I'm fairly sure they're not buying it. They have around 1,800 ETH worth of rETH, which is about 200 validators worth. However, I think that they might be using a chunk of that, like maybe 15, 20, 30% of that as collateral for RPL, and then use that for that purpose. So I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work. The way the wording sounds here, it looks like they might enter a marriage, but I've not heard anything about that. But if they enter a marriage, that'll be fine too. So
with Houston, they'll be able to do that. Right?
Yeah. Well,
So they might be thinking,
Houston,
we don't want to get exposed to RPL, so we will just find someone who has a shit ton of RPL who wants to marry us, and we'll have a marriage, and everyone will be happy.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That sounds like a good idea. Moving on to tokenomics. Just to touch on this. So this has been going on since, as we know,
November.
about 7 months.
Yeah.
We've been working on it. It's a lot of work. You're talking about pretty much recrafting the entire protocol. So I just want to touch on an update. Val here puts on the current status. What seems to be the focus now is putting together a mainstream document that can be digested by the public, and breaking that down into like different tiers. So your depth, top tier, big overview. Why do we need to do this? And then you got your next tier would be getting into some of the details. And then the third tier would be like really getting into the weeds if you really want to find out. So this is a work in progress. The link will be in the show notes. It looks like there's progress being made. This is one of the this is one of the steps you would take when you're near the end, is where, okay, we kind of pretty much figured out what we're going to do, but we've got to provide a way to communicate it now to the general public in a very simple way, but also allow for a detailed explanation as well. So I feel like we're kind of coming around turn 3 on the racetrack here, right? We're not at the finish line yet, but I think we're coming around that last corner if we're thinking about the Kentucky Derby. So what are your thoughts on this, and where are we, and what do you see as a timeline?
Yeah, so this is something that's really needed because a whole lot of people don't really know what's going on. They just have snippets of ideas, and they have big question marks around different points that they haven't either figured out or they haven't paid attention to. Having this one document for everyone to kind of just go and interact with and kind of figure out what's happening is really cool, and I think it's really good. The problem is that we still don't have all the answers to all the questions. There's still a couple of unknowns. So we're kind of building out all the scaffolding and filling in the gaps where we can. But it might be another couple of weeks, potentially maybe even a tiny bit longer before we have all the answers to all the questions. And the main thing that we're still waiting information on is like the RPL value capture mechanism. Because the team, like in their bi-weekly call yesterday, talked about how they're actually talking to some lawyers now about the legalities of it and like what makes sense and what doesn't make sense and how it might look. So those are things that I think are really interesting. But there's ways of setting up the protocol so it looks very similar to the way it does now, where if you stake with just ETH, you'll just get ETH, and if you stake with RPL, then you'll get like outsized rewards. But we want to. So then you'll have to stake to get those extra rewards. You won't just get them as an RPL holder, basically. So there's some different ideas, but like we'll see what it ends up looking like. And like you said here, look, there's a to-do list, and we're getting more and more of those sections are done, but there's still bits that are left. So hopefully those will be done soon. People are working really hard on this. Like, huge shout out goes to Val and Samus, of course, but also people like Long for Wisdom, Epinef, and a whole bunch of others. Sorry if I'm not naming you right now, but I think that's kind of the situation we're at. So hopefully we'll get a breakthrough in the next few weeks, and all of it can kind of come together, and then that's really exciting. Like, I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Right. Yeah. As you see here in the far column, most of it's green as being done. The top three things here that are still unresolved. The team reached out waiting for a response from legal experts. That's on the value capture you were talking about. We got to talk about, legal counsel. So it's kind of like a legal counsel thing that we may have to wait. I don't know. It sounds open-ended. A couple of weeks, couple of days, maybe a month. I don't know.
One of the problems was that it was taking a while for the team to even get through to any lawyers to talk to them, and finding lawyers to talk to. But in yesterday's community call, they said that they've established contact with some lawyers now. So hopefully things move a little bit faster. But that was one of the stumbling blocks that we had at the time.
Just to refresh, the reaching out to the legal counsel was because we don't, in terms of what's the risk if we do if we do a token burn, if we do a LP
or fee switch.
Where on the spectrum are we in terms of risk, in terms of being considered a security or not? And so that's what I think they wanted to get a lawyer's perspective, and that way, once that comes back, we can present it to the community and say, okay, here's the spectrum of risk. Where do you want to be on that spectrum? And then we can make a decision on which value capture we can go with.
Absolutely, right? Exactly.
So hopefully we're nearing the end here. We'll get that answer soon. Okay, our last topic today, we got a vote that's currently live. We got the IMC full membership selection. It's a really nice set of candidates to choose from here. You got Valdorf, non-fungible Yoakum, Jasper, Peterus, or Peterus? Which is it?
Peterus.
Hallelujah, Samus, Whack, of course, Dookie. Did I say Hallelujah wrong?
It's Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. I can't say it.
Hallelujah.
How Halo? I'm going to say Halo. So Dookie, Astonita.
Yep.
Phil.
That's easy. Come on.
Phil.
Yeah, Phil.
Phil. That's the easiest one. Lamb and Dr. Worm.
Lee M.
Lee
M. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, anyways. Why can't people just use a real name like me or you? Pat's easy. Whack. Right?
Lee did.
Phil I'm
did.
going to vote for Phil. I'm voting for Phil because his name's so easy. Right?
yeah.
But anyways, this is a really great, I know this is a really good cast of candidates. I'm really excited. Everyone on here is high quality. And so I encourage everyone to vote. So you can see what the votes are so far. This goes on. How much longer we got on this vote? Another week?
Until June 9th. Another
June
9
9th,
days. 10 days.
Yeah, so
it just started.
So, and how does this work? How many people can you vote for?
You can vote for everyone.
You can vote for everyone.
You can vote, and you can choose the weight depending on how you want to vote. So currently, right now, my vote is just divided equally across everyone. But I'm going to spend a little bit of time and like tweak it to give more weight to some people, less weight to other people. That's like, for example, if you scroll down, you can see Valdorf's vote. Like if you just scroll down a little bit, keep going a bit more. Yeah, just hover over Valdorf's vote, like the second one. Yeah, over the vote part where it says 10%. There you go. So you can see he voted 10% for Pateris, 10% for Samus, 15% for himself, 10% for Jasper, 15% for non-fungible Yoakum, 5% for Dr. Worm, 5% for Phil, 5% for me, 5% for everyone else, 10% for Halulo, and 5% for Lee. So that's how he kind of divided out his vote. So people will like vote more or less for different people depending on what they want to do. And I think that's fine. Like that's what we kind of expect. I'm honestly like so happy with this slate. I think that everyone in here is like a well-known community member. The majority of them have a long history of contributing to the protocol and to the community, which is absolutely fantastic. A lot of them, like will be hard workers for the IMC. And, the great thing now is that, as they get elected, they'll actually be getting a small stipend of around $300 a month, which isn't much, but it's just like as a way of saying thank you, like an honorarium, basically. So, their efforts aren't being completely, taken advantage of or exploited or anything. It's very much a, hey, there's a small token of our appreciation from the PDAO for you all. So that's really nice as well. But I think that this is pretty cool, and it's going to be nice to see this slate like go through. Like I don't even mind if I don't get elected. Like I'm so happy with the selection of people, and it's really, really great. So like this is filling me with a lot of confidence for the IMC for the next like year, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think you do enough for Rocket Pool Whack.
Yeah, so I know, right?
If at the very least you get on this committee and start pulling some weight,
Exactly. Yeah, I've got a lot of weight to pull, okay? So,
yeah.
But, yeah.
I agree. It's great. I have confidence in all those people on the slate. So, do you have a win for this week?
Yeah. So last week, I was calling from making some episodes, and we were on our call from like first in the prison and then outside and with all the wind and stuff, and that was because I was on a family trip, so I got to spend a lot of time with my boys, and that I think was really lovely for me to do that. And we had a really great time, so my win was spending time with family.
Yeah, was that your first road trip with everybody, the new child and everyone?
It wasn't a road trip. We flew. But
I
the little ones,
the first time you were out with everyone.
No, we've done that a couple of times. We've done that a couple of times now. So yeah, the little one's a year old now. So
that's right. Yeah.
But we've got a big trip coming up. He actually flew in our summer trip last year. We went to the UK and Europe, and the little one we all went together. But he was only 2 or 3 months old at the time, so that was a bit more difficult. But we've got another trip coming up in July. We're going to be traveling for a month, so we're going to do it all over again. But it was really lovely to just spend time with the boys, because it was mostly me hanging out with the boys, and we went to water parks and we did lots of fun stuff. So it was really cool. That's my win. Yeah,
that's awesome. My win is a friend of the pod. He had applied for his Italian citizenship. He's an American, and now my understanding from others I've known who've applied for Italian citizenship through like a grandparent. It's a very arduous process. Can take years. You got to get all your documents translated into Italian. A lot of back and forth. A lot of frustration. And he from my understanding, he had all his documents, and he had contacted his lawyer. And the lawyer said, well, I can get you citizenship in a few months. It'll cost you $20,000, but you'll have to go to Italy. There's an Airbnb there. You stay there for a month or two. There'll be 2 police checks. They'll come by to see if you're there, and as long as you're there, they'll be taken care of. And he's like, "Wow, that's great. How are you gonna get it done so quickly?" And she's like, "Well, I have an understanding with there's a clerk there in northern Italy." So he was like kind of wink, wink. I'm like, "Man, that's awesome. I got to find one of those in Ireland." Someone with an understanding in Ireland. I am happy. He had his second police check, came by. Everything looks good. So he's there now, and he's there with his girl. They're going to be spending the next few months in Europe. But I'm happy for him because it sounds like he'll be getting his Italian citizenship, which means he'll have his European, be a citizen of the European Union.
Yep.
So that is awesome. I'm really happy, and I got to find someone who knows somebody, with an understanding.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. Anyways, thanks for watching, listening. Be sure you like and subscribe. We'll be back next week. We're hoping to, I don't know if it'll be next week or the week after. We're going to try to bring on maybe Jasper, talk about Houston, because that's going to be coming up in June 17th. And that's really exciting. So until then, take care, and we'll see you next week, Whack.
See you, Pat. Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.